Hello, welcome to Los Angeles Real. My name is Christian Monzon, coming straight to you live from the Van Nuys Golf Course. I guess I'm not live. I'm live right now, though. Thanks for stopping by. In the studio today, we have documentarian Chris Bell. His feature documentary, Bigger, Stronger, Faster, shocked the world of professional bodybuilding and professional sports as a whole. Make sure to check it out, Bigger, Stronger, Faster. Enjoy the episode, and you can find us online on the web at losangelesreal.net, Twitter at LA Real Show, Facebook, Instagram, and finally on iTunes. I'm about to putt for birdie. Oh, there it is. All right, fly in my ear. I'll see you later.
Welcome to Los Angeles Real. My name is Thomas Faustine Husking. I'm joined by my co-host, Christian Monzon.
Wait, I thought you were my co-host.
Yeah, we're both co-hosts.
Fucking A, man. Get it right.
Today, you're already stepping on my shit, dude. Today, we're so stoked to have Chris Bell in the studio.
Yeah,
welcome,
man.
dude.
Welcome, dude. Thank you so much.
You might be stoked right now, but you might not be after an hour hearing me mumble.
For those who don't know, Chris did Bigger, Stronger, Faster, which, if you don't know and you were a kid from the 80s, how dare you, first of all, because that will enlighten you big time. But why don't we let you talk about whatever you like, man.
Yeah, Bigger, Stronger, Faster debuted at Sundance in 2008. So it's been out for like 5 years. But what's crazy about it, what like just sort of stops me dead in my tracks every day and going like, I'll be walking around town, around anywhere, especially in the gym, and you always get those people that come up to you and be like, "Oh my God, I saw your movie.
You're the guy."
Yeah, you're the guy from that movie. You know, like.
No, you should have heard how Thomas was talking about you.
Yeah, I was
like,
so
dude,
excited.
oh my God, I saw this guy.
Well, and then he said I look taller in the movie.
You did.
No better way to bring down a guest before they get on the air.
Let's keep it real, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really excited about this for a long time because I saw the movie, I think, 2009 when it came out on Netflix. And again, like, if you grew up in the 80s and your heroes were Hulk Hogan and Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, among many others, you got
He-Man.
He-Man, you got to, dude, Dolph, yeah, you have to see this film because it's eye-opening in so many respects, but there were a few things, and I know you've talked about it to death, but there are a few things that I wanted you to sort of expand on. One of them is gene doping.
Yeah.
What has happened since then that you know of? Have you kept up with, I'm sure you have.
I've been gene doped.
Have you?
It's a very interesting thing because, basically, like, if you could change somebody's genetics, is that even, like, ethical? Or, like, is it, it's like, it gets in a whole different thing. Like, you don't really know what the side effects are until you actually do it to people.
Right.
But there's been talk, and it's just speculation again. And, there's a lot of talk that flies around. But, like, Usain Bolt, before he broke his last record that he broke, world record in the 100 meter, they said that he had a trip to China that was all, like, covered up.
Oh, shit.
Like, it was all, like, the details were not exposed, like, why he was there. And then he goes and breaks a world record. And a lot of the speculation was like, well, maybe he was gene doped because he didn't test positive for any steroids. But we also know that there's a lot of ways around these different tests. But, with gene doping, there would be no test for it. And that's where it becomes interesting because, like, if there's no way to test for it, why wouldn't you have it done? If it's going to make you bigger, stronger, faster, why wouldn't you have it done? So it becomes, I guess, I think there's a thing in sports where, like, there's people that have all these ethics, and they're like, oh, I'd never cheat, and that's cheating, and whatever. And those are the people that usually don't win.
Right.
But that's interesting because when you look at, everybody thought that baseball was done with steroids. And baseball has like 50 guys next year that are getting suspended, some of the top players in the league that are still doing it because they still think they can get away with it. And that's what's going to be interesting about gene doping is, like, if there's no test for it, everybody can get away with it. I hear it's just progressing. When I was doing Bigger, Stronger, Faster, we went to Dr. Lee Sweeney's office in Philadelphia, University of Pennsylvania, and this guy's just like a brainiac, like crazy, like with the knowledge that he has. And he basically told me like he'd be the first in line to do it
I remember
if it
saying
was
that.
available. And the other thing he told me was like, hey, we're working with like a bunch of dogs right now. We have these dogs that we're doing gene therapy on. Like they have some sort of disease. They're all the same kind of dog. They all have the same disease, and they're doing gene therapy on them. And at the time, that things were progressing really well. I don't know what that ended up turning out to be, but I do know that they did a study in humans. And here's the thing where like I sort of have a problem with is like we want to advance technology, we want to advance all these things. They did a study with 10 boys in a bubble.
Really?
Sounds like a sitcom, but it's not. They did 10 boys in a bubble, and
They isolated literally 10 kids.
no, these are kids that were living in a bubble.
They literally okay.
Yeah, like the boy in a bubble thing.
Yeah.
And they had 10 kids, and out of those 10 kids, 7 of them were able to get out of the bubble, right? One of them died like early on in the program before he even had enough gene therapy that would have killed him. Like he just died.
Did they have anything wrong with them? Were they test subjects for
No,
anything in
these are
particular?
there's a disease where you have to live in a bubble.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's like the worst disease you can get. Like
It's like an autoimmune disease
Yeah.
where your immune system doesn't work.
Okay.
yeah. So they literally live in a bubble, and so 7 of the kids were able to get out of the bubble, like forever. See you later, bubble.
After this gene,
Yeah.
Wow.
Seven of the kids got out. One of the kids died from what they explained as like just natural causes. It was like he was just too far gone. And one of the kids, another one of the kids died longer. No, not one of the, then the other kid, one kid died. The other kid was not able to get out of the bubble, but he was improving. The last kid was another kid, like another of the same thing. Like he couldn't get better enough to get out, but he got better. And so we like look at these issues and we say, well, we can't have, this study was in France, and the U.S. looks at that study and goes, we can't have any of that going on here. We can't have any human testing. I'm like, 7 kids get to go live a normal life out of 10, and the other 3, who knows what the factors are, but it wasn't the gene therapy that killed them.
Wow.
right?
It only seemed to make all the kids better.
Well, yeah, you can't argue with percentage.
But
Well,
who's,
it's just
who's
interesting.
changing that policy then? Who do you
I mean, I guess you can argue.
who do you appeal to sort of change?
Well, there's
that?
a lot of bullshit in this country with like stem cell research that can do a lot of really good things for people.
Right.
There's so much medicine that we can't practice. So what do doctors do? They just write scripts for drugs. Script for drugs. Like that's all they do.
Right.
Because that's all they sort of know how to do, and are allowed to do. And if you talk to a lot of researchers, especially like doctor researchers, they'll be very frustrated with the way the system works.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you take something that obviously is progressive but helping people, right?
Well,
why wouldn't you want to apply that? And what's the governing body that in France that says, these are the regulations?
Over
this is
here
why
it'd
it's
be
okay.
like the FDA.
Yeah.
People like the FDA getting involved.
Right.
And then, like, as soon as there's enough market for it, enough money for it, to be made off of it, they'll dive right in. And, like, not the FDA, but the drug companies will dive in and say, we got to test this stuff. Yeah.
And that's exactly how it'll work, right?
Yeah.
So, Bigger, Faster, Stronger is your documentary.
Bigger, stronger, faster.
Bigger, Stronger, Fast. Bigger, Stronger, Faster.
And I'm short.
Yeah, how dare you, dude?
2 strikes.
2 strikes.
I'm out.
for
Stronger,
real.
stronger, faster, bigger. So in the documentary, you showcase this massive bull. Is that the gene doping that you're talking about?
That's called a Belgian Blue bull. And a Belgian Blue bull is like, it weighs 2,900 pounds.
That's awesome.
I mean, just to think of an animal that weighs 2,900 pounds. And there's actually a little deleted scene that we have where I'm like petting the cow and talking to it. and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, people were like, how could you go near that? I'm like, the farmer told me it was docile. And then the farmer was like walking it up a hill, the other bull, walking him up a hill, and the bull flipped out and ran the guy over. And we were filming the whole thing.
So what
But-
else? What else?
it-
You said there was a deleted scene. What was left out of the picture that you?
Well, the Belgian
thought
Blue
that-
Bowl was definitely one of them. And the Belgian Blue Bowl, just to actually explain it to people at home, it's like this gigantic bowl that's all muscle.
Yeah.
And people say, how does it get like that? Well, it gets like that because it's lacking a gene called myostatin. Myostatin's what regulates how big we get, and how big and muscular we get. So they're basically had found these bulls with a low myostatin level in their body naturally, and they were like looking really muscular. So they bred them with the other muscular ones, and they kept breeding them and breeding them until they
Crossbreeding.
have what's called double muscle. So their muscle fibers like this. When you eat that thing, it tastes like a tuna steak. Like, it doesn't taste like a tuna steak. It tastes like steak, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody loves steak.
Everybody
you
except for
don't-
this guy.
You don't eat steak? You're banned from the show.
Fucking strike 3.
Off the show. Well, listen though. Do you eat it because of what reason?
Well,
Health reason?
I fasted about 9 years ago. I just got rid of literally all food for 10 days, and I was following a regimen by Dr. Stanley Burroughs, who I guess coined the phrase the master cleanse, and he
Yeah.
put people onto this lemonade thing. Anyways, in the book, he talks about beef and chicken, and how the body doesn't digest it properly. It literally doesn't digest properly because it's meat, right? So if it would be digested properly, then your stomach itself would digest itself because it's also meat. But there's something protective around your stomach lining that stops the stomach from digesting itself. Well, when you introduce meat into this is Dr. Stanley Burroughs, not quote. This is not my quote. When you introduce meat into that environment, your stomach, it starts to tear part of that. The stomach lining does what it's supposed to do, and it starts protecting the meat that you introduce into there. So it goes into the small
Well,
intestine.
that's interesting because what I was going to say is the Belgian Blue Bull has less fat than boneless, skinless chicken breast, and yet is as tender as like a tuna steak.
Wow.
So
Awesome.
you literally just have to sear it.
You got
That's
to
not
eat
even-
some?
Huh?
You got to eat some?
Oh yeah, I loved it.
Oh
Wow.
my god, I can't
But
wait.
like it's funny because we're out on this farm and it's in Colorado, and it's like this farmer who is amazing with his just basic, down bare bones like way of living, and he like pan fries it. Like, you
Really?
don't pan fry a steak like a good steak,
Like, grill it.
but it was still good.
Yeah.
I bet it was amazing.
Yeah.
So when does that hit the regular market? When do we get to eat Belgian
Well,
Blue
that's the
Bull?
problem. We have things like the regulatory bodies in the United States, like the USDA, saying, well, that doesn't have enough fat in it.
What?
What?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have enough fat in it. It's like, okay, so like a restaurant owner could like maybe order that and put it on a specialty menu, and that would be like fine. But like for a store to sell it, it has to be USD rated.
Yeah.
And they USDA rated, and they won't rate it if it's doesn't conform to like this giant meat philosophy that they have.
Right.
Which I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like there's certain levels of fat. And
It's
this
the
and that.
corn-fed conglomerate.
It's
That's what it is.
it's all bullshit to keep the money just keep flowing, through the same hands, and not to allow things of competition that could actually be really healthy to people. And so we look at these regulatory bodies going, they're trying to help us, and like they're not trying to help us. Like
No.
they're trying to optimize like the sale of beef in the country and keep the cost down and all these other things. So it's not even that expensive, the Belgian blue meat.
How
You
are
can
they
buy it
making money
online.
off of that then? How are they? So they are selling it, but it's just what, like farmers markets and selling it
Yeah,
online.
there's sort of a crowd that follows it, sort of like grass fed. But all these cows
That's
are grass
me. I'm
fed.
gonna be on it now.
I know. It's
That's
like
so
you
badass.
don't know what you just
how
did
did I
to
not?
Thomas.
How did I not
Dude,
know about this?
all the things that we talk about with like with grass fed is interesting because like in the United States it's like there's something wrong with grass fed beef. It tastes gamey, But my friend who owns Cut in Beverly Hills, they have like a New Zealand Wagyu that they treat it a certain way, but it's all grass fed.
Right.
And he's like, this thing tastes amazing. It's like if you go to like a good steakhouse and get the certain right grass-fed beef, it tastes amazing. So a lot of it that I buy at like Whole Foods or something tastes kind of gamey a little.
Right, it's a little stronger flavor.
Yeah, but I know that like keeping the corn and the gluten out of it definitely helps.
Have you, and I don't mean to abruptly switch gears, but have you followed the changes in steroids in the game since the movie came out? Has it been important to you to go, well, I should keep up with this since now I'm the guy
I
who...
follow sort of all the stories, but all the stories are like surface stories, or like things that don't really matter. Like this guy got busted, that guy got busted. It's going to go on forever about who got busted. Like I would be more interested in, following up with people on like what the actual steroids do.
Right.
But it's really funny because like nobody really has any answers. Like my brother says to me, my brother Mark, he says, look, he's like, people don't know shit about steroids. Like, I don't think they really know how they work. Because I asked the experts, how exactly does this work? And they're like, well, it just raises your testosterone. And they're like, I'm out of here.
Right. Well, it's increased protein synthesis. I gotta go.
Yeah, and it's that's sort of all you get. Like, and so, the so-called experts sometimes aren't really experts. I ask people, where does this come from? Is it just chemicals? Then they're like, well, it used to come from Mexican yams, but now,
Are you serious?
yeah.
Yeah, that's what Usain was talking about. That he eats Jamaican yams. He was talking. They did a segment and something about yams, the yams from the island.
Oh, come on. There's there's testosterone in yams?
Well, I don't really know. See, I couldn't get to the bottom of it. I asked people, and they're like, I don't know how they make it anymore. They just make it in China. It just comes from China, But I mean, the interesting thing about steroids is like a lot of people making them in their own house.
What?
All the underground labs, the proliferation of underground labs.
Well,
because...
they actually there's good stuff out there.
Right.
There's also a lot of bad stuff out there. So, that's why I tell people like just be careful. Like, if you're buying steroids off of somebody, which I don't recommend, because there's plenty of. It's interesting. Like now, there's plenty of doctors that if you're like over 35 and you walk into them and say, I'm feeling sluggish, I'm feeling tired, they'll prescribe you testosterone. And there's plenty of doctors that will give you growth hormone and all that stuff. Like, they'll just write you a script. And so I feel a little bit more comfortable if I got it from a doctor than if I got it from...
I was going to say, if you if you were to do Bigger, Stronger, Faster Part 2, would you include the massive growth of, say, hormone replacement therapy clinics, which is just a really clever way of saying, yeah, we can write you a script for testosterone steroids.
Living in Venice, we have 35 weed shops in
That's
this
true.
This little town, right? And I'm like, why don't we just throw up a banner and it says steroids? And I'll just open up a clinic. I'll hire a doctor. Doctor will come in, and just write steroid scripts all day and just get whatever license they need to sell them there. And people
That's a great idea. That's a
people is like, you would
idea.
get shut down in a second. I'm like, I don't know if they could shut you down, because it's not even as bad as weed. You have a medical prescription. Well, with weed you get the medical prescription from the medical
guy on the
doctor.
boardwalk for $40.
Yeah, but we all know it's sort of bullshit. And
Right.
With this, I mean, you having a person that is going to help monitor you and look at your blood results and everything. Like, I went to my doctor, Rand McLean, who trains at Gold's Venice, and I said, Dr. Rand, look, I just had double hip replacement surgery, this and that. Like, what do I need? He's like, take this testosterone. He personally doesn't really recommend growth hormone, so I wasn't really doing that. But I went to a doctor and got it legally, have no problem being on it, feel a lot better on it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, what about the
sort of
people
like I did this movie and it became sort of I wouldn't say an excuse, but it became like a stepping stone into just knowing
The gateway.
Yeah,
it was like knowing the truth was more important than anything.
the
Right.
people who are being prescribed the steroids for health reasons? You showcase the guy who was dying of AIDS, and I'm not sure whatever happened to him, but he got better.
Yeah. No,
Right.
he was on one of the it's like, I hate to be talking about it like this, but one of the best drugs that any guy could be on is Anavar, because Anavar it doesn't have the same chemical compounds that destroy your liver like Deca and
Winstrol
and anything else like. So it doesn't have anything actually. It's mostly the oral steroids
right.
that'll mess with your insides there, with your liver. And
all the organs.
Anavar actually improves liver function. It also makes you stronger, makes you better.
Awesome.
It's funny because they did a study.
Isn't it super expensive, though?
They did a study. Yeah, it's pretty expensive. But they did a study on high school kids, and we always tell high school kids, like, don't do steroids. I just think personally that kids don't know enough about their bodies to do any drugs. Like, you're just too young and stupid, and you don't know. You think you know everything, but you really don't. You know? So they tend to overdo things, or So I just don't recommend it to any kids. But they actually did a study on teenagers with Anavar that were burn victims. All the burn victims got better. They increased their liver function, and their penises got longer.
What?
And like, how can you tell? Well, because usually you think it's
some Anavar stat.
Well, I think that I think maybe because they were still growing.
Yeah.
But it like definitely increased it over like a control group.
Dude, you just set the inner tubes aflame, dude. People are gonna be breaking their necks.
And they're doing 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups like nothing.
Don't you think though, if you were to open up a clinic like that people would just do what they do now at the weed place and just make up symptoms so that they could then abuse these compounds for aesthetic purposes?
What do you think the entire medical industry is, though? Like, it's people going in, making excuses, the doctor accepting the excuses, writing them a prescription for Adderall, Xanax.
You're right.
Any sort of that's the movie I'm doing next is Prescription Thugs, which is all about prescription drugs in America and how they sort of affect people.
Oh man,
how long did it take you from inception? I mean, can you talk about what the impetus was? I mean,
it's all going to sound easy, and you guys are going to be like, "I hate you," because I know how hard it is to get like a project off the ground.
Yeah.
But like, really, the main thing was we tried to approach it from a point of view of like, look, there's 3 producers. There was me and my producing team, who's actually now married and has a baby, and that's Alex and Tamsin Buono. And they were they were basically the driving force behind a lot of it, because it was like they were just asking me about what I do. It's like if I'm asking you about music or you about modeling or something, like you're going to be able to tell me like everything about that, everything your experience was in that. And like they would just take from what I would say. I'd be like, and then I was 18 and I won the state powerlifting champion and that was this. And they just started like writing everything down. So it sounds like it was going to be, it felt like it was, it'd be easy to shoot this, but it ended up taking three years from start to finish.
And that's just getting it in the can, right? That's not post.
I think the best thing to do, like if anybody wants to make a documentary, is sit down and write. Like people go, I got this idea, and it just floats around as an idea. And like we live in LA where everybody's sort of like, I got this idea, and then you have amateurs who are like, I got this idea, but I can't tell you because like you might steal it. Like anybody thinks that you're gonna, hey, this guy might steal my idea on a 5-minute pitch, like. Dude, by the time the other lazy ass guy who's smoking weed from the weed shop gets around to doing it, you'll be fine. Like so, I think that's the thing is like you have to treat it professionally. You have to like sit down, write a treatment. It could be like 5 pages, it could be 10 pages. It just depends on how much you have to say, and then really keep honing that into like who am I going to interview, who am I going to talk to, who's important in this world, How do we get into all that?
Yeah, man. You the people you interviewed were, I mean, Stan Lee,
Waxman, dude.
Yeah,
Waxman
Henry Waxman really blew my mind. I mean,
that was so embarrassing.
It was
everything
like,
about that, the way you guys
how did you guys
edited it. Oh,
how did you keep that in there? Was there anybody like with reservations
where was quality
from the
control
government?
in the government?
You made him look stupid.
Well,
that was
Waxman,
pretty awesome.
I went into so like I have these producers who are like really well-read, educated, awesome producers, and like there's like Alex went to USC with me, so we were like kicking around the idea of like going to Congress. And I'm like, well, who would we interview in Congress? Like, and I'm like, what about the people, like anybody involved in the baseball trials?
Yeah,
like, that would be perfect. And I'm like, well, who started the baseball trials? It just happened to be Henry Waxman and Tom Davis. And so I said, let's try to get those 2 guys. And then, so what you do is you hire what's called a fixer. Like, you don't have to know everything to make a documentary. You hire people to help you. You know, like okay, we need a fixer.
Comforting.
So what they do is, like, the fixer basically be somebody who's an expert in either, you know, sports, Hollywood, you know, movies, whatever. Like, they're expert in, like, finding you these people that you need to find.
Right.
And then you just got to figure out who that person is to get to them and hire them. And they'll sort of set up all the interviews for you and schedule them and everything. And then you just, like, go do them.
Oh, so you didn't have to, like, knock on any doors or
Well,
make too many phone calls
for most people, I did everything. A lot of this is based on personal relationships and friendships. It was like people I know, my brothers. Like,
Sure.
I'm not going to tell my producers to call my brother and get him to do it on this
Right,
day. I'm going
right.
to call him, say, hey, this is when we're going to come film and whatever. So, but I feel like we got Waxman, right, and I walked in. I mean, for me to wear a suit,
That was
first of all,
badass.
is a miracle, and second of all, to go interview somebody in Congress, like, I'm just like a kid from Poughkeepsie that, like, you know, likes to lift weights and hang out. Like, I was not like somebody who I ever thought was going to go question Congress.
Yeah.
And so I walked in and I was like super prepared, and I was like kind of nervous, but like, you know, sort of after I saw Waxman, I was like, I'm not nervous anymore. You know, he's sort of, you know, sort of disarming as far as that goes. And so basically I sat down with him and I did this interview, and it went for like 20 minutes about. And literally, I walked out, and we sort of filmed everything. They filmed my reactions to all the interviews and everything. And I'm walking away, and I'm saying, you know, it really bothers me that these people in the government that are supposed to have the answers don't provide you with any answers. And I'm like, I really bombed out on that one. I'm like, that was the worst interview I've done, you know, the whole time. They're like, listen, just keep your head up. Everything's cool, blah, blah, blah. So I bring it back to Kurt Engfer, who's my editor, right? And Kurt says, are you kidding me? This is the... I thought he was going to, like, lay into me. He's like, are you serious? And I said, what? He goes, watch this. And he just basically took the 20-minute interview, which was all the same throughout, and cut it down to, like, 3 minutes.
Yep.
And at the end, we're like, can you do that?
Yo.
He's like,
I was shocked.
He said, we are doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting, working with, like, really creative and talented people. And I say this as advice to anybody who's a filmmaker or part of a collaboration. It's like, when you're a filmmaker, you have to be like a general. You have to be, you know, the leader of the pack. You got to tell people, like, what's going on, keep people interested in the project. And when you sort of do something like that, and then the people around you see it, and they're like, oh, this shit's going to be great. It's like, then the movie just grows. Like, and you take it to different levels. You're like, well, fuck that. Let's get Carl Lewis and Ben Johnson in here. Let's get this guy.
Awesome.
You know, and you figure out how to get him. And, like, Ben Johnson, you know, like, I mean, I say this about, like, almost every celebrity. Like, you'll be dying to meet somebody, and they will become the biggest pain in your ass.
Yeah.
You know, they'll be, like, calling you every day, pitch you. Because, like, you maybe loved this person in the 80s,
Right.
but you don't really love them anymore, but you sort of still have that passion for them. Like, oh, I have a friend who had Mr. Miyagi calling him for like 2 years, drunk out of his mind. It's like 2:00 in the morning. Like, you want to come hang out? Nobody likes me.
Pat
You know?
Morita.
R.I.P. Pat Morita. That's
Well, yeah,
insane.
and so, like, I have that happen to me all the time, where there's people like I've been dying to meet. I, you know, meet up with them because I think it's going to be awesome, and then like literally 2 or 3 phone calls into it or meetings into it, you're like, I got to get out.
Yeah.
This guy's too crazy.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm calling you tonight. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be like, tell me again what happened when you. That's so wild.
It's
Are we good
never
over
it's
there?
never a chick, a hot chick.
I
And
know.
if it was, I'd be, you know, I would put up with it, but it's not. You know, it's always like it's always some B-list celebrity.
Was it? Were you surprised by how many people were willing to talk about it on like Carl Lewis and Ben Johnson? And of course, Carl was reluctant to ever
Look,
say that.
I have a terrible, terrible tendency to want to interview people about things that they don't want to talk about.
Right.
I mean, terrible. Like,
It's a gift, dude.
okay, so my first movie's about steroids. Nobody wants to talk about that.
Right.
Nothing good comes out of that. My second movie is about kids in sports and the parents that push their kids in sports. And, like, nobody wants to come out and be like, dude, I'm nuts. Like, I'll treat my kid like this, like that. But the stuff that you'll see in Trophy Kids is insane. Like, it's off the charts. Like, people can't even believe it when they watch it. They're, like, sad. They're, like, really, like, kind of like it's kind of fun and happy sometimes, and then like kind of, also like really kind of sad and disheartening about how people treat their kids.
That's
and
great.
then the third movie I'm doing is Prescription Thugs, and that's about prescription drugs, which the people addicted to them don't want to talk about it. The people selling them don't want to talk about it. You'll get rare people that want to talk about it. So you have to like embrace those people and potentially find a couple, new and interesting people that you haven't thought of that just sort of come along, and be creative, because it's tough. It's tough to get people to really come out and say things. And that's like, you're not going to get, I look at it this way, to license footage of Hulk Hogan, Arnold, and Sylvester Stallone saying they were caught with steroids, they were doing steroids, whatever they had said, is a lot cheaper than trying to go contact any of them who aren't going to tell you anything anyway.
Right.
People are like, oh, did you interview Barry Bonds? I'm like, for what? So you can lie to me just like you lied to everybody else? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not even a grand jury. He's going to tell me the truth.
Yeah, that's a good point.
No,
Like,
man.
he's not even under oath. It's like,
What about Arnold? I know you had issues getting in touch with him, and then that fucking awesome like handshake.
Talk
that
about
predator
serendipity,
handshake.
man.
Did
It
you
was
ever
just-
did you ever get to talk to him off the record, outside of it, when he said, "Hey man, great documentary," or did nothing?
yeah, he came up to me at Gold's and gave me a big hug.
Are you serious?
No, he actually came through Gold's, walking through Gold's, and I'm pretty, like, I don't know, because we think things in our head.
Yeah.
Like, I think he saw me and made a beeline, like, to the other side of the room.
That's the story.
But I don't know. I mean, like, look, I admire, I've learned to admire people for what they do and not necessarily who they are.
Right.
So, like, you like what they do, you might not like the overall person. But I said, like, in Bigger, Stronger, Faster, I never wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to be like my hero. I wanted to be like Arnold.
Right.
Well, my dad just went through, he went through like the first 90 days of last year in a hospital where he got like, he had his intestine burst on an airplane. And,
Whoa.
and he, and so they had to like rush him to the hospital. He went through 10 surgeries. He basically almost died, and like he just powered through it because he wanted to get back to work. Like he does income taxes,
Wow.
which sounds boring, but like he wanted to get back to work for his family, and then, just more recently he went in to get stents put into his heart, and he goes, hey, I'm not feeling really good. I'm kind of short of breath. They go to put the stents in. They're like, we can't do this. He's too clogged up. You're lucky that he made it to the hospital.
Whoa.
And
Jesus.
they're like, we have to operate on him right now. So they rushed him into the emergency room, did a triple bypass surgery, and he's like now up and about and playing with the grandkids. I'm like, that's my hero.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Screw this like bodybuilder who like turned his back on everybody and doesn't give a shit about anybody and steamrolls everybody, and really appreciate what we have with our own parents or our own families. People that, put it this way, people that love us, because not everybody has a great family. It's people that love us,
That's after watching the film, it struck me that was the message that I took from it, because the main messages always came from either your mother or your father, which I thought was really cool
Yeah,
that
that's
you included
badass.
them in there. I mean, it was almost like, I mean, I'd like to know, was that intended? Was that something that you set out to do, or did you guys find that? Was it part of an outline, or
My
'cause-
parents just ended up being awesome. Like
Seriously,
it's like
I
you
mean-
throw the right questions at people that watched you grow up, knew who what you were all about, and like whatever. It's like they just have the best answers for that shit. Like they were just amazing. Everybody like, if nothing else I ever do in this world, it's the fact that like I went to Sundance and got to like bring my mom and dad up in front of everybody, and my older brother who passed away.
Oh, rest
I
in
got
peace, man.
to bring them up to the front and like talk about them, and and
That's
just
so cool.
yeah, and it's like my mom was like funny, like she would go off on
Held
we-
their own, huh?
Well, we would do like Q&As at Sundance, and she would just go off on people like just in a funny way, like manner, like a mom would do,
Yeah.
like people are like, how can you be proud of your boys? They all are up there telling you they took steroids, and she's like, how can I not be proud of my boys? Where's your boys at Sundance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
that kind of thing, like she's like good, like with like it's like it's that kind of thing. It's like she just had this attitude of like I'm going to protect my kids at all costs. She said, listen, she said like one of the most profound things at Sundance is like, I might not be proud of what my kids did, but if they could take something they did that was negative and turn it into a major positive for thousands, if not millions of people, like where can you find fault in that?
Yeah.
You know?
Were they?
Yeah, we all fall, man. It's how we get up and what we do after. Yeah.
Were they
Hey,
always?
yo. Like a
Well
Rocky.
said. Were they always supportive of your film aspirations?
Oh man, it's been a battle for them because like it's hard to support something where there's nothing. You know, like it's like they sort of gave me the get a real job speech a couple times when I've asked them for money. They've still, you know, but they've all along, you know, basically decided to support it all the way. But I mean, it's tough. It's tough to like, you know, people don't understand. It's like people have jobs. You go to a job and you work your job. My job is like, okay, you want to make a movie? Go raise some money, and then go make the movie and use that. You know, what I was taught from day one is, if you're not getting paid from another source or another project, and make a budget where you fit into the budget, because everybody else is getting paid on the movie. There's no reason the director should work for free. So like, that's my feeling is like I have a job that like I sort of have created, you know, and it'll get better as it goes along. Like the more stuff you do, the more things will come your way. So I'm definitely hoping to launch into the narrative world as well. And so get into the narrative world, there's a lot more money in it.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the business side real quick. I mean, you premiered at Sundance, and you went to Tribeca too in 2008, and you
Sold the movie.
You basically kicked ass, and it's still. We talked about this with Sultan Sharif, who also was at Sundance in 2010, and just talked about how hard it is, even being that kid who premieres at Sundance. It's still hard to make your next film.
Well, it's crazy too. Like we raised like $1.5 million to make that movie. We had two of the producers and the editor of Fahrenheit 9/11 and Bowling for Columbine. We had, you know, we just had, like, we'd have researchers in our office where I'm like, what are these people doing?
Right.
You know, obviously they contributed to the film, but they were sort of just working with my producers on, you know, research, and like there's a lot of things that we had to write. So like Alex would say, hey, can I take a crack at this scene about like the FDA and the, you know, making supplements? And I said, yeah. And he's like, well, what are sort of the things you want to show in this? I said, well, I want to make my own supplement. And they're like, geez, how are we going to do that? I'm like, because the guys out in front that are like work, you know, day laborers, they're going to make the supplements for me. And he's like, you can't. He's like, wait a second, that's brilliant. Like, there's so many times in this movie where like, wait, you can't. Oh yeah, you can.
Oh, yeah, I did that. Yeah, that's
who
good.
cares? And so, you know, we did that whole scene where like, I mean, we literally like Alex, my producer, was on the internet all day, and he's like, you know, he works out sometimes at Gold, but he's like a really thin, like sort of more athletic kind of guy, and so he's like doing all this meathead research, like of how do you make a supplement, like, and so he's trying to find out. So basically, you just order all the ingredients in bulk, you know, you break them down yourself. You know, it's funny because if you ever want to just straight creatine, I mean, you could buy like 10 pounds of it for like $2. You know? Like, it's crazy because then people just repackage it.
Super cheap.
And sell it, you know? So they buy like a huge bag, you know.
For
and
$2?
It's crazy. There's websites that are like, you know, wholesale.
Yeah, that's where I used to get all my, I don't take any supplements now, but I used to take a shitload of supplements.
Do you find there's a difference when you don't take supplements?
Unfortunately, and this is just my own experience, I haven't noticed a huge difference, which was really disappointing to me. And this is after doing, you know, everything from shit. In the 90s, it was chromium and vanadyl sulfate and always the protein powder, right? Always. And then up through the NO products and, I mean, what's hot now? I've always taken creatine since the 90s, all that stuff.
You know what's crazy to
creatine
me?
is the only thing I noticed that was ever serious.
We know drugs like testosterone and different things work, and especially in like limited dosages. None of that supplement stuff has ever really helped me. Like,
you never noticed a huge difference?
I'll tell you the huge difference. I was on a drug called Tricana. Well, it was a supplement at the time. Then like I went from at the time I was like 215. I went down to 168 pounds. I was just
What?
fucking shredded.
Wow.
Just shredded, like, and people were like, how did you do that? And I'm like, well, I was taking this Tricana, and then they took it off the market, and I started gaining weight back like crazy. Like, it just wouldn't stop. Like, it would be like, I would take Tricana, and they say take like 3 a day, and I would take like 6.
Nice.
Because I heard it really
That's
worked.
the American way.
Well, I heard double the dose, hope for the most.
Right.
But that's what I heard, it really worked that way. So I did that, and like, I mean, I got so lean, like I had like, veins coming out of my chest and all that shit, like, and it was like, wow, this really works, But then they pull it off the market, and you can't get it anymore.
What was it in? Was it an ECA stack? Like what
It
was it?
was just it was a thyroid drug in Europe.
That's ephedrine, caffeine, and asprin. For those who don't know what the ECA stack is.
No, but the see another thing is like the ECA
Why
stack.
you look at me, dude?
Because I didn't know if you do.
Well, they made the ephedrine. They made ephedrine illegal.
Right.
And there's been a lot of
That
controversy
shit was
around it.
great. Man,
Well,
that
here's the
stuff
thing with
worked great for
ephedrine
me.
is like it's the most studied supplement ever. It's the most tried and tested for obesity. We have a obesity problem in America. Like, can people take too many and get screwed up from it? Yeah, of course. Like, I don't recommend anybody take the above level dosage unless their body doesn't respond to the normal dosage or really super huge or whatever. But like ephedrine's like one of the most studied things. And so like somebody dies in the NFL who weighs 300 pounds and he's out in 100-degree heat for 4 hours. You're like, should we really blame that little pill?
Right.
Right.
The fact that they're running this dude to death, and he shouldn't be out there and on ephedrine. Like, it wasn't the ephedrine, is the effect of all of it.
I'm intrigued by this Tricana. What year was this on the market?
2000, maybe 2004.
Really? So
I mean, GHB used to be on the market. I used to walk in the supplement store, buy GHB. They're like, okay, only take it at night and just take like half a cap. So of course, double the dose, hope for the most. Take a full cap. I woke up on my kitchen floor, and my girlfriend at
your
the time
pants around your ankles
was like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Are you drunk?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "I just took this stuff."
No, it's for bodybuilders. It's fun.
Yeah, I just took this stuff, right? And so she's like, "Oh, let me try it," and then out like a light,
Yeah.
And it's funny because it became like a date rape drug, and it became illegal, and all these things. And so there's things that like
We used to make that shit.
yeah,
That's
it's not that hard to make, right?
Yeah, you used to be able to buy all the ingredients really easily off the internet. No, I don't know. You probably still can.
Yeah, it's crazy because like
We don't recommend it.
The Los Angeles Real Show.
I always say I don't recommend anything because like I'm not like a I'm not getting paid to be an expert on something, so I'm gonna go out on a limb and recommend something, and then somebody takes it and is like, hey, I tried that.
Which you did a really good job in the movie, and we could probably just talk about the other films too, but you did such a great job of leaving it open-ended, right? I mean, so that you were never browbeating anyone and telling anyone this is the way it is.
I got 2 bad reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and I had written to both of the critics very nice letters, almost like love letters to their bad review. And I said to the one guy, I said, listen, he was basically, telling me, I'd emailed him, and he basically told me back, well, listen, what I didn't like about it is that you didn't tell, in his review he actually says, what I didn't like about it is that you don't tell the audience what you think about it. And the filmmaker doesn't tell the audience what he thinks about steroid use. So I wrote him back a really nice letter, and I said, I want to know as a filmmaker what you think about it. That's where I'm coming from. Like my style is like, I'm going to show you this. I want to spark a national debate. I want to get people talking about it. And the only way to get people talking about it is like let them have an opinion. If I like came out and made this really polarizing movie on like either anti-steroid or pro-steroid, I'd have people like, bashing me here, praising me here, bashing me here, praising me. And it's like, why not give both sides? So everybody goes, that was really fair, actually.
That's
and
what analytical thinking is.
When you want to involve a bigger audience, you got to stop being a meathead And that's where my producers came in really strong and said, like, you know, there's some things that like I wanted to do, and they were like, I don't know if we should do that or that, you know, like whatever. And I thought about it and I said, yeah, it's kind of keeping it small. And then people were saying, well, why didn't you have more bodybuilding in it? I'm like, well, wasn't really the goal for me. So like, this is a movie about my experiences. Like, it's not like, and then I became a champion bodybuilder. People would be like, douchebag, you know, like that's what people, you know, think. And so like, I just didn't want to go that route and have a bunch of. There's one scene that I left out that I missed that you saw, which has a bunch of the bodybuilders from Gold's Gym.
Yeah.
You know, Charles Glass, who's like the guru of training over there, and Mike O'Hearn, and you know some other guys I'm friends with, and they just sort of give a good. I thought that scene was really well crafted, gave you a good scene into the whole thing, and also like Jay Cutler, you know, sort of had.
That was a great piece with Jay. Whose executive decision was it to keep that out?
It wasn't any. We just had to cut the movie for time. We had sent the movie to Toronto, and Toronto said, "Listen, the guy that runs it actually was pretty smart for us to follow his advice. He's like, listen, if you cut 30 minutes out of this, it was 2 hours. It was like 2 hours and 15 minutes." But people were like fascinated watching the screen. He's like, "Holy shit!" Like it was like so long, but I didn't
wish
even
it
care.
was longer.
Well, all those scenes were not all those scenes, but yeah.
Anavar, bitch, Anavar.
But that's the thing. It's like you don't, you don't. What was I?
Toronto.
Toronto. You don't want to cut your movie down.
You don't want to.
People are watching it, liking it,
Yeah,
really excited. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know it's kind of long. It's even still long for a documentary. You know, documentaries usually a good length is 90 minutes.
Right.
And so I just said, like, okay, I was so bummed. Like I literally it was the day I wanted to cry.
Oh shit.
You know, and
well, couldn't you just have like a director's cut and then? Like,
well, no, but like, listen, you're on a movie and you're on it for 3 years. And you get to the end, you're like, we're going to go to Toronto. We're going to crush it up there. You know, boom. But the guy said to us, if you cut out 30 minutes, you cut out 30 minutes and like sort of the right 30 minutes, he's like, we'll accept the film. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you take your time and cut out the right 30 minutes, you'll go to Sundance, no problem.
Wow.
He's like, I'm telling you, I know all the people that program it. Like, you will go to Sundance. And so we had to make a decision. I was like, let's wait for Sundance. You know, it sucks. And I don't even know why it sucked. Like, I was fine financially. I was fine physically. You know,
but you're just ready to get this thing out, man.
I mean, I was anxious after a year.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I was like, when are we going to get done with this? Like,
right.
You know, and, you know, the whole thing is that things take forever. I was just talking with my partner, Leland. So Leland Anderson, he's a guy that played basketball at Michigan. He was like a blue chip, you know, prospect, D1 prospect and everything, top 50 in the country. And then when he stopped playing basketball because he hurt his back, like overseas, playing pro ball like overseas, he hurt his back, and he just started telling me of like his experiences and stuff, and that's like how Trophy Kids came about. It was like we just were sitting around talking about like him coaching basketball, how everybody hates on the coaching. A good thing to tell, you know, people that want to get into documentaries or into filmmaking in general is like Leland had no experience. He had no experience, but he said to me, listen, I don't have any experience, but I can lead you to the craziest parents you'll ever see.
Wow.
And I said, well, look, nobody in Hollywood really knows what the fuck they're doing anyway. Like, you know, nobody ever gets things done on time. No, right. I just believe that. I mean, I've been, you know, when you work with people higher up, things go slower. You know, so like the higher up you go, the slower it goes. So
frustrating.
It's tough. It's like, you know, you want to get things done and out right away, and like you're always waiting on somebody else to tell you your stuff's good.
See, that's like my life story since moving here.
Well, no, it's a battle, but you only lived here for like a little over a year.
A little over a year, yeah, exactly. So and I'm like, what?
No,
this is taking
good.
Forever.
Yeah, you'll be good. Once you sort of learn to take it easy, be patient with people, but you have to be pushy too. But so Leland came on board, and like we just started going out and filming with like a little tiny HD cam at some of his practices, and I mean the parents were off the charts, like
really?
They were nuts, but in a fun good way. There's some of the parents in our movie are you could deal with them, and other ones you're like you're way too far off the beaten path, you know. But I think that like for people to watch that film and know that like half of the team making it has never made a film before, and he just dove into it, you know.
So did you wrangle up people who helped you make your first doc?
The first doc was like we basically IMDb'd like the shit out of everything. Like,
Seriously?
Well, we're like, well, who edited Bowling for Columbine?
Yeah.
And then it comes up, there's 3 editors. I'm like, well, who really edited it? And I found out from, you know, I contacted a couple people that worked on it. Like, well, this guy said it was the lead editor, you know. And what about Fahrenheit? Same guy, lead editor. I'm like, that's the guy I want.
Nice.
I'm like the guy sort of in charge of, you know.
This is Keith, right?
Kurt Infer, yeah. He's great, man. He also did a movie that you probably love. It's called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead.
Fucking awesome film. You've seen that, right?
Nope.
That's more. No, that's all about juicing.
That's another guy who never made a movie before.
Joe Price or
yeah,
something.
Joe. Yeah, he came to Kurt with just like a lump of footage that he shot. He was like a pretty wealthy guy from Australia, and he just had a bunch of money to make a movie.
You haven't seen this film? This is tremendous. It like started the whole juice fast craze with the Breville juicer.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm about to choke
Oh, I thought you meant juice like juice.
No.
Well, that's
like,
what Kurt always jokes. He's like, I got 2 juice movies.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that.
Yeah, he does some great work though. He's like somebody who really taught me how to just. He's like, dude, find all the funny stuff, find all like the crazy stuff, the craziest news stories, whatever. He's like, just start slapping them together.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, take your interviews, just cut them down to what's like in your mind as somebody who knows this stuff. In your mind, what people need to hear, and in your mind, what's just totally sounds crazy to you, but you know that it's true, and we can back it up. Take those things, those elements, and start putting them together. And it's like, don't worry not so much about the order. Just start making sequences, and like that's sort of how he works. And like you see the index cards, you know,
He still uses index cards on the wall.
I think anybody, you know, my friend Nick just wrote a huge movie for Fox called Let's Be Cops, and it's a movie they're making in Georgia, like right now. They're shooting, and I walk in his house and he's got a wall that size, you know, big wall. It's all index cards.
That's awesome.
So I think the people that, like, it just really, I mean, you can get on a computer all day and have your stuff all have it all like in little neat compartments and whatever, but like just like taking a Sharpie and write, like the act of like writing of like thinking it through and being like, you know, it would be a good scene. It'd be a good scene to have, you know, some bodybuilders in here. Right. You write down bodybuilders, just start as a thought. And then, well, what about the bodybuilders? Like, what exactly we want to hear from them? Like that kind of thing. And it sort of grows into like more of an idea. You know, we had stuff on our wall where like we had whole scenes that we cut together. Like there was an asterisk scene in the movie where we asked the question like, okay, so, you know, Brett Favre played 212 straight, you know, games without, you know, it started in 212 straight games, you know, but he did it using Vicodin. Should he have an asterisk next to his name? And then we asked, like, we got into like just sort of some more funny, like ridiculous stuff, like should they have, you know, the asterisk? And it was awesome, but it's just sort of didn't fit anywhere.
Right.
You know, it's almost like its own documentary about like these people did this, but they were cheating. Doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah, I had a question about that, man. I don't know if you'll be able to traverse the entirety of this answer, but man, what's the solution? Like, so you have in your mind, you have the athletes who are being stripped of titles and their accolades and really being put into this witch hunt, right? I mean, that's what it seemed like. It seemed like the Spanish Inquisition, you know, on trial, really being stripped of their honor.
I'll tell you what the point was for me, where I'm like, that's it. Everybody's a liar. Was when Lance Armstrong tweeted, "Just watch Bigger, Stronger, Faster. I highly recommend it."
Well,
he's like, "Great movie. I highly recommend it." And so I'm like, he's guilty. This was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, he's maybe even more. Like I was like, dude, he's totally guilty. And I just thought that from then on. I think the solution to all of this, really, I don't know that it's to just make everything legal, because I do have like a moral code about things, but I feel like, and then people say, well, you can't use it in the UFC because you'll hurt somebody. I'm like, everybody's using it in the UFC, like everybody's using it in football, everybody's using it in all these sports, and the sort of solution is, I think, to it's like, is there a way to do baseline testing? Is there a way to figure out what people's levels are now and what they are later, and if they're way too out of whack, they're just over by way too much. There's a certain line that you call cheating, but then that's sort of arbitrary too, because what if your testosterone comes out to be 801 and the level you have is 8, or something? So
right.
It's it becomes sort of a slippery, crazy slope, and I know that it's really interesting that I'm sure more people die from McDonald's and Marlboro and Pepsi and all this stuff that they advertise, during the Olympics. But the Olympics, what they told me is look, we can't afford to lose sponsors. Oh, really? You can't afford to lose McDonald's?
Yeah.
Who their CEO has now been saying, we don't serve unhealthy food. Come on. It's
Really?
It's I'll believe you about intermittent fasting. It sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
But when you tell me well, just go to McDonald's, get on the Super Shred Me program.
That's actually a brilliant campaign. Super Shred Me.
Yeah, man. I mean, I didn't follow the trials. Baseball lost its allure a long time ago for me. I'm sure if I would have been more into bodybuilding and the steroids and whatever. But it just seemed like, look, man, if these people are being honest, if they say, yeah, I did it, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. And but
baseball,
why should they be, Marion Jones? I mean, they ruined her life.
She was in prison.
They ruined her life.
She went to prison for lying. But lying about something that she shouldn't have to lie about.
Right. That's what I mean.
It's lying about something where you shouldn't be forced to testify. I'd say I'm pleading the fifth. I'm out of here. And it's that's the thing is but the guys who do admit it, if she had come out and admit it, I bet you they probably would have stripped her of her medals, but she would have been forgiven of whatever she did. People would forget about it. She'd be a spokeswoman for, McDonald's or something.
Right.
That's what happens. Is it's just ridiculous the way things work. But I mean, look, if somebody came up to me and offered me a contract to be a spokesman for McDonald's or something, I mean, money changes everything, and I think that's a big problem with this.
Is it cost prohibitive to do any kind of sweeping testing of steroids and that sort of thing throughout professional sports? I mean, will there ever be any?
I think if you're going to really police professional sports in America, that you either take USADA or you take, the World Anti-Doping Agency, you take one policy, and it's got to be applicable amongst all sports that, you want to test for, which I'd say all the Olympic sports and all the big money, professional sports where
MLB, NBA, NFL,
NHL.
Even curling?
Well, I wouldn't say that's major, but it is.
How dare you, first of all? You wouldn't say that's major?
What about golf, man? I wonder how many golfers.
I think Tiger Woods, I think Tiger Woods, his name was linked to, a lab,
Well, you have this piece on about beta blockers.
That was so awesome.
And,
that was so badass.
Yeah, was he a celloist? Cellist, whatever. Thank you, Music Man. You gotta think. I mean, if your golf is 180% mental, you gotta think that there's a possibility that they're taking something to focus.
Yeah. That guy was a big blowhard too, because he sort of was you could take an idea and stretch it any way you want.
Yeah, it was how about the irony there? How were they not seeing that it was the same?
I take beta blockers, of course, but my doctor prescribed them.
Yeah.
Well, my doctor prescribed the steroids on.
Yeah, but that's crazy.
Dude, the musicians, and you probably know this, they're weird. I mean, when you get into You get into like classical musicians. They're like, and I just couldn't get on stage. And I'm like, well, don't be a fucking musician. You know, like seriously, if you can't handle it, like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, look, if you said, like, I just can't go in the game, coach. I just don't have the strength to do it. You know, I my nerves are acting up. Like the coach would be like, see you later.
Yep.
Right.
You know, go.
Well, it's going to affect your performance, and the thing is
They'll say
you,
go play tennis,
Right.
which is even more pressure, but they don't understand at the time.
well, you got to think. I mean, the psychology behind these great, and they're great musicians, masters, because they spend thousands and thousands of hours practicing their trade, if you will, and they isolate themselves, so they're not socially inept. They can't have a conversation like we met today, and we're like getting along fine.
What's up, homie? Yeah.
What up, man?
Well, that's the whole thing. Is like I feel like communication and relationships are like one of the most important things, and a lot of that stems from like our childhood, things that we've seen and done as a child, or we've been scarred by. You know,
Yeah,
by
of course.
Like, I mean, there literally is like. There's a lot of ways that people get scarred for life. Basically,
Yeah.
they say that I'm scarred for life, but it's actually true. I mean, there's really something there about that. So I've always concentrated on like being, you know, people person. I would much rather like talk to people and be out and being social, which I didn't grow up that way. I grew up like really shy, you know, and so but what I did was I went into the gym and I started training. And I told you this before, if you feel good about yourself, you feel like, you know, in shape and strong, you're going to act, you know,
Totally.
strong, you know, towards other people. You're going to, you know, basically there's I think something that happened to me when I started training was just like, man, I sort of, like now I fit in, you know, like I was training because I don't know what I thought, but like literally I would increase when I started 100 pounds in the bench press, like every 6 months until I got up to like.
Oh, those newbie gains.
Yeah, being able to bench like 455, you know, when I graduated high school, it was stupid.
That's retarded.
Yeah.
And it was like no gear, nothing, like, you know, and then I got into a single ply shirt and I did like 480 or something. And I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
But people are like, you don't even know how to use the shirt. You could bench a lot more.
You'd be
But
doing
it's-
580.
Yeah, but it's crazy because I you know, I've done that. I've done 585, I think, in a bench shirt. But my brother laughs at it. He's like, dude, you bench like 455 raw. You should be able to do way more than that. And I'm like, I just don't know how to use it.
Right.
And because I'm not around a group of people. But
Well, you don't train in it, do you? Regularly? You don't train
I
in the
would-
shirt?
no, I would like to not necessarily train in a bench shirt because it just looks ridiculous. But I would like to eventually compete again.
Good
Just
for you.
as a reason to keep going.
Yeah.
You know, I think like it's sort of like people turn 40, they want to run a marathon. I just turned 40, I want to like train, bang out some weights, you know?
Did you ever have any aspirations to compete in bodybuilding? Especially when you got shredded at 168 on your Tough Actin' Tenactin. What was it called?
Yeah.
Tanaka? Tuwaka?
Tricam.
Tricana.
There we go.
That's close.
He's got it written down.
Anavar.
Technician.
Tricana.
Anavar Tricana.
In bodybuilding, you know, not really. I actually competed with my brothers as a professional wrestler a couple times.
That's awesome.
And that was sort of, you know, the extent that I went with it, you know, but
You're more interested in the strength and the demonstration of that rather than the aesthetic and the...
no, I wouldn't say that. I definitely, like, put it this way, I need to get back in good shape like I was. Like, I just sort of, for the past couple months, I've been going crazy putting these movies together.
Mhm.
Just sort of let myself go. So I think that, you know, I think that the goal is just, like, drop some weight first, see where you're at, drop some weight first, see where... Because that was, like 10 years ago when I was down to that weight, you know?
Right.
And I feel like, you know, with the amount of muscle I've put on over the years, my lean body mass is certainly way higher than, you know, 168 now. So
Right. Will you compete raw or will you compete geared?
I think I like doing the raw stuff, you know. So we'll see.
That's a pretty contentious issue in powerlifting, right? People seem to
I
take...
think I think the like look, every sport has their equipment that they use, but I think in powerlifting it's become sort of ridiculous. But well, I
How
think,
much can a really good geared lifter get out of a shirt? And let's explain that. Tell people what a bench
Because
shirt
I
does.
have no idea what it
a
is.
bench
Yeah.
shirt.
I was just about to ask you guys
Yeah,
to
yeah.
explain it because
Yeah.
I'm the layman.
A bench shirt is sort of like a canvas, like smock that you wear backward. Yeah, it's like you go into it backwards, like like a hospital gown.
Yeah, right.
But it's got like these arms that barely fit on your arms, and like I mean, it takes 3 people to get the thing on.
Okay.
Some of them are open back, which I said you go in like
Mhm.
boom, and then they Velcro the back shut. But a lot of them have gone away from that for like a new, more stretchy back where you just pull it on. But it's a pain in the ass to get on. It hurts. It looks like you got bit by a vampire on both sides of your pecs when you're done. But you can literally bench, I'd say 300 pounds more.
Why is that?
300?
Why is
Wow.
If you learn how to use the shirt good.
So because it's harder to come down and touch, and so do you get like a spring under the
Yeah,
bottom?
it's sort of it's not, it's like, it's just sort of like,
It
if
aligns you.
If you put a denim jacket on backwards
Uh-huh.
and then benched, it sort of stops you. But if the weight was enough, the denim's not going to rip, and it's going to go all the way down your chest. And then, like, as soon as you do that, your arms are triggering the weight to go up. So it definitely makes it a different ball game. But I've never really liked them because although you can do more, I never really felt like saying, if I say to Thomas, oh, I bench, 585, he's going to be like, holy shit.
Yeah.
He's going to think, it's sort of like using steroids. Like, he's going to think, I got to bench 585 to fucking be anything here.
Right.
But it's not true. It's like maybe I could bench 405 at the max, and you got people pushing for this upper echelon because they just hear that somebody did. But a guy just did 722 raw.
Raw, dude. 722.
At Gold? You guys
No,
watch
his
him?
name's Eric Spoto, and he trains at my brother's gym, which is supertraining.tv.
Super
is
training.
his site, and he's got a ton of videos on there. But he has Eric Spoto's 600,
Whoa.
700 pound lift.
That's
So let me ask you a
incredible.
question.
I watched that. That was amazing.
I put on this shirt, right?
You're intrigued by the bench shirt.
Well, here's the thing. If I'm training with the shirt, when I take the shirt off, does it increase my raw bench press? Because I'm building muscle, right?
That hasn't been really proven because there's so much support. I think you do get stronger because you're overloading, all your other muscles. But the one thing I can say is I'm really proud of my brother for inventing is the slingshot, which actually goes on just goes up one elbow and then up the other elbow. It's just sort of a strap that goes across your chest. And when you bring the bar down, it gives you the same effect as a bench shirt, but it only takes 5 seconds to put on.
That's great.
And it adds about 50 pounds to your lift.
Right.
So by adding 50 pounds, it means like all of a sudden he can do 315 for 8 reps, and he's like, "What the hell? Like how did I get so strong? Like boom, like it's like instant, And the thing is that by using the slingshot, since it's a lot more pliable, it allows you to build all the overload muscles. And you only use it like at the end of your workout. You use it like people are like, well, I don't want to have a crutch, Like, you don't want to be stronger, like
right. That's a
like,
terrible
well,
crutch.
So
Well, no, but
sorry, man. It'd be the equivalent of like bouncing it off your chest, right?
It would be, but you're in control.
Right.
and
Okay.
your elbows stay tucked.
I mean, you
the
can
whole time.
come down, pause on your chest, and as soon as you make that movement, it's going to give you a little boost off the bottom. But then still, 75% of the lift is all you.
Right.
So isn't the danger there though? Joint pain, just because you're using super physiological.
No, the danger is
loads
benching a lot raw and overloading yourself too much, where you can, without any protection here to here. Because you can do plenty of stuff to work this stuff, dumbbells,
Right.
whatever, and worry about that way. But I think that, with the slingshot, I mean, everybody we talk to is like, dude, I play in the NFL, and my shoulders don't hurt anymore because I can finally bench again.
That's awesome.
Stories of people like Eric Spoto, who had a 660, I think, raw max, and trained with the slingshot for 6 months and did 722.
Yeah,
Tell me it doesn't work.
That's what I
Dude.
meant. It's like if I use the slingshot, if I use the bench shirt,
I wouldn't recommend a bench shirt for training, especially because you're not going to go in a powerlifting meet probably anytime
Yeah.
soon.
No.
And if you were, that would be definitely, because a bench shirt will increase your bench more than a slingshot.
But are bodybuildings catching on to the slingshot and then using
Yeah,
it?
there's a big macho consensus in the bodybuilding world is like, oh, I don't need that, you know. But every one of the same guys trains with like the lifting straps,
Yep.
which drive me nuts.
Right.
Because I'm like, if you can't hold on to it, you can't lift it, you know. And so it's interesting to see. I look at like the lifting straps are so you can just blatantly lift more weight, and they're not legal in powerlifting, and so powerlifters always kind of shun those. And I actually
Because then you can't build your grip strength. And
now that I think of it, I don't really mind it. The more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what, I don't really care. But I hate when people like deadlift with them and say they can deadlift 600 and they
use lift straps.
You see them do it, but they use the lifting straps, which could add a substantial amount of weight because a big problem people have is like their grip strength, you know.
Yeah, because you're using their back more, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to.
Well, and also it forces to make you use your back more, and you know this. You don't want to use your back really. You want to use your hips, your glutes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want those muscles firing, and you want, you know, your back is just sort of along for the ride. You know.
So is the slingshot on the market? Is it?
Oh yeah, it's actually on the market, and there's a couple versions of it. There's a reactive slingshot, which is blue, which is like way more pliable. Now, like a big amount of my brother's business is CrossFit. He's got a lot of CrossFit people following him, and people that train like CrossFit but just don't call it CrossFit. They call it X-Fit or something else, right? Something cheap. So, for those kind of people who want, like, maybe even for you, like just a simple training tool that's like really pliable and stretchy and like good for somebody who's not trying to be a world-class powerlifter. Like, for example, golf. You play golf, right?
Yeah.
So you play golf, and like you don't want your shoulders to be all fucked up because you were benching.
Right.
You want to be strong, you know. And so with a slingshot, like it'll get rid of any of that pain, you know, shoulder pain that you would have.
Right, right.
But then there's a regular slingshot, which is sort of like, that's sort of the standard for like any normal strength athlete, powerlifter, football player, whatever. That's the red one. And then there's the Mad Dog slingshot, which is named after my older brother, Mad Dog. And that one is like a double ply. So that one's like insane. Like the amount of...
I can put an extra 100 pounds on my bench.
It's you want to bench 500... You want to bench 400 pounds or more to even use that one, really.
Right.
That's not me.
Well, because some people can't even get the bar down to their chest with, you know.
Right.
But
can you use it in an incline?
Yeah, I was just about to ask that.
Yeah,
Get
you
that out of
can.
my
It's
head.
a little
It's
bit.
pretty tough, a little janky.
I like the reactive slingshot for anything else because the
Right.
reactive is like really like sort of pliable and it just sort of. But the one thing the slingshot does is forces your elbows in,
Right.
so you get used to benching with your elbows in. Everybody's all out here and they're just like, you know, tearing the shit out of their shoulders. So
Totally.
you know, and so if you want to be stronger, you know, this grip's better. You know. And,
Does he have a website? Can we get it on the website
Yeah,
anywhere?
it's-
Supertraining.tv?
yeah, well, that one's howmuchyoubench.net.
How much you bench?
Yeah, howmuchyoubench.net.
HowMuchYouBench.net.
My brother's a character. If you check out his website, supertraining.tv, it's pretty awesome. I mean, he's got some really good stuff on there, and he works with like the top level, you know, athletes, and it's just getting bigger. Like he'll like send some to, you know, Triple H, and Triple H writes him a letter back going like, "This is awesome, man." You know,
Oh,
he sends
put it
them
on the website.
he sends them to like, you know, to just different people that are you know important in the business of like some big CrossFit trainers and got, you know, people like that, and you know they'll basically write them right back and I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and then like, you know, I was telling Thomas before, like he's creating a shoe with Reebok, a powerlifting shoe.
So awesome.
Just
It's
something
doing well,
that's-
man.
Yeah, just something that's nice and stable. All comes from a kid who was dyslexic in high school. You know, that people told him, you know, he wasn't going to make it.
Smelly, right?
That's
Yeah.
that's like the Dave Tate story a little bit, you
Yeah.
know? That's
Dave
very-
Tate's amazing.
How's
man.
your relationship with him now? I mean, you guys,
We're tight.
you know,
Cool.
you
Well, he
guys
just-
lost your brother, and
Yeah, my younger brother's nickname is Smelly,
yeah.
and he just made a new slingshot that is coming out in like 2 weeks, which is actually going to be the best one. It's called.
I'm going to wait for that one.
My nickname is Boar,
Yours.
right? So like a wild boar. But I always say go full bore, you know, even though it's a different spelling of it. But I'm like, just go full bore, go all out. And like people that know me always say like, that's your personality. You just want to go nuts. And you know, whatever it is.
All in,
you know,
all in.
All in. And so the new one's going to be yellow, and it's Hulkster colors.
Yes.
It's yellow and red, and it says full bore slingshot.
Oh,
Nice.
So that's the.
So why is it going to be the best?
dedication.
That, my friend?
It's a big secret.
No, it's not a big secret. Actually, it's just the things that he's got a great mind to notice things that are wrong with something, and so he's not basically saying I was wrong with this. You know, you got to buy the new one. He's not really saying that, but
he's not like Apple in that respect.
No, but he's got one now. The full bore one has tapered sleeves.
Okay.
So now when you pull it up your arm, what was happening? A lot of people like it'd be kind of loose, and it'd be like, well, if it was all more supportive throughout the whole thing, it'd give you even more of you know, protection for your elbows. So that he just invented that, and like it's funny, like my brother is a prick, kind of. The way he tells me things are like, he'll post it on Facebook. He's like, the new slingshot, you know, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, you named it after me? I'm like, that's awesome. And he's like,
That's
well,
how you
Mad
found
Dog
out.
has one, you know, whatever. And you know, it's interesting with my older brother, Mike. I just, you know, it affects you a lot when somebody dies. It's close to you. You know, I'm sure you guys have had some sort of experience with that. But when somebody close to you dies, it's like just really difficult. So my brother just had a lot of. It's crazy. He had like a lot of problems with drugs and alcohol, but he was actually in sober living for 62 days, and they just found him dead. So they're not really ever sure what happened, and like we didn't really get much of a positive. You know, like nobody really went like when you're in sober living. They're like, oh, he was a junkie. I'm like, no, he wasn't a junkie. He had a serious problem for a while. For him to be able to conquer it, you know, for this long, is to me that was amazing. You know, like he came up to my house in Venice and he cooked like Thanksgiving dinner for all my friends. You know, and he was like totally changed, like totally like, you know, God loves you. You know, and I'm like, what? You know, really? Mad Dog, because Mad Dog, like the thing you gotta understand about Mad Dog is he was awesomely crazy. Like he's a guy that everybody wanted to hang out with, because when you hang out with Mad Dog, like you know something was gonna go down.
Adventures happen.
Yeah, it's just gonna either be really fun or you know. I mean, I remember being at my senior prom, and the girl that I was going with was like, her best friend didn't have anybody to go with, and my brother was like, "I'll go. I don't care," you know. Like, I'll go with her, you know. Going
She hot?
Yeah, that's what.
Right.
Yeah, she was cute. So he's like, I'll go with her, and so we walk into Denny's, and some guy's making fun of me because I'm in a tux, and I'm like, what? And so like I went over and I was, you know, we were talking to them, and I think what it was like I don't know, it was after a prom, so who knows, but I think I like spilled a drink on the guy because he said something like really messed up to me or something, and my brother immediately like jumped onto the table, over the table. This is like 275
he's a
pound
big
guy.
dude, man.
It is massive.
And he jumps over the table and he starts, you know, yelling at the guy, and the guy says something. He goes, "Look, you have 3 seconds to get out of my face." He goes, 1, 2, boom.
Whoa.
And like knocked him out so cold he hit the floor and there was a pool of blood on the ground. I'm like, oh man,
Shit.
we got to get out of here. By the time we got out of the Denny's, we called it Denny's Massacre. By the time we got, his friend was like talking smack too the whole time, and just went, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, man, I said to the guy, I'm sorry, man. You know, and we had to run out. So
Sorry, bro.
yeah, we had to tell the girls like, hey, take the limo home. You know, see you later.
Yeah.
I got shafted on the whole deal, and so we're sitting at the police station. We're in handcuffs, and Mad Dog's like, was it that bad? Was it that bad? I'm like, dude, it was horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, you gotta. He
Man.
goes, yeah, but the guy was getting in your face. I'm not gonna let anybody talk to my brother like that.
That's
and those
amazing.
are the kind of stories that like
Yeah.
you'd
I
have.
really,
Okay.
I really admired his tenacity. Like he came off, his spirit was like there was no. He knew what he wanted, and he's gonna die trying, man.
Unfortunately, my brother had like, you know, he had some problems because he was sort of bipolar.
Right.
He was diagnosed bipolar, and you know, it's like some things just didn't register in his mind. You know, like he wanted to be in the WWE so bad, but when he was younger, he sort of screwed that up. You know, you only get a certain age to sort of make it. You know, but people can get signed at any age or whatever. But you know, by the time he was, you know, the latest you've seen him in Bigger, Stronger, Faster, he was just like. It's hard. It's like hard to explain. But if you've seen like The Wrestler,
Mm-hmm.
he's like in that world of like, it's not all glamorous. It's kind of actually all shitty.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
not like no one's ever really being good to me, but I'm gonna keep my head up because I'm gonna keep trying to make it, you know. And then, but that mixed with bipolar and doing drugs and alcohol because you're depressed from the world you're living in. Like not, you know, for some people, like you know, we've watched guys like John Cena come into wrestling. You know, we helped him get into wrestling. My brother was his first trainer.
Like you literally helped him.
No, yeah, my brother was his first trainer, and so he helped him get into wrestling. And then John just shoots for the sky, and all
Yeah.
we can say is, God bless him. I love John. He's a great guy. But when you see that stuff, like, what? Why not him? He's got like, why him? He's got 4 months of wrestling experience.
Yeah.
But you got to understand when somebody's the guy. You know, you run into things when, you know,
Yeah.
somebody else is the guy. You know.
Well, I mean, we talk about this with our acting coach. He says how, you know, we make an irrational decision to shoot for the stars, to become somebody who's celebrated, to do what I mean. The smallest percentage, it's like 1% of people, actors, actually provide for their families and
I would say, you know, like, God bless you guys for being in one of the toughest things there is to be in. And also that, you know, LA is full of people that are like, oh, I'm an actor, but they're not going to class. They're not, you know, they're not auditioning. And I hate that because, like, you just be like, you're not, like, can we please just check you off the list?
yeah.
You know?
They eventually leave, though, don't they?
Well, they leave because they, you know, it's like all these girls that came out here with dreams of being an actress, you know, they end up, you know, getting a real job, you know, having a baby, doing whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I dated a girl who was an actress for a long time, who, like, on her very first, I actually paid for her to get her headshots, and then on her very first audition, she booked, like, a car commercial for, like, 75 grand overall, like, by the
Awesome.
time all said and done, right? And so she thought she had it made. I'm on my way, and never booked another thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, what I was trying to say is, like, you know, you say your brother, he was, you know, he had a chemical imbalance, and that's why he maybe wasn't clear-minded when he was making his decisions.
Yeah.
They were irrational, and he was hanging on to the dream. But I think that's what it takes, man. I think you got a part of us is crazy, and we're striving for this vision that.
Well, I would say where maybe he wasn't clear-headed was the fact that, like, he was trying to reach, like, this goal that was, like, really big that he could have got.
Yeah.
But the people sort of around him saw, like, the other side of him, and they're sort of important people. Like, what I've learned is you can't really screw up around your peers, you know, because that'll come back to sort of haunt you. So any drugs and alcohol problems and whatever, it would just be you know, you become known as, like, the fun loving great guy to becoming, like, maybe the guy who's disgruntled and angry, you know, and
Right.
and around, like, peers and around, like, maybe some of the trainers and coaches, that they sort of, like, feel that after a while, and that's the only thing, because, like, if he really wanted to do it and was clear-headed and sober, and I know this for a fact, he would have trained as hard as he can, got as lean as he could, and do whatever it takes. But since he wasn't clear-minded, he wasn't doing the whole, like, let's get shredded thing and let's really make it. Because if you look at my younger brother, from, like, 6 months ago, he was 308 pounds. And he was, you know, he's one of the top 20 powerlifters in the world. And he's ranked, you know, that's where he's ranked. And, like, to be able to do that, you got to be really heavy. So he got, like, as big as he could. And he's like, you know what? It'll be better for business, better for my kids, better for whatever if I just get shredded. And so you went on a certain diet called Carb Night Solutions.
Oh, you
And-
did Kiefer's thing, huh?
Yeah, and he just got shredded. Like, just every day would get leaner and leaner, you know. And so, you know, he's writing his own book now, which I think is pretty cool because, you know, It's just mistakes that my brother's book basically mistakes we've all made. It's called Jacked and Tan. It's like mistakes we all made, but we wish we didn't make. So if you could read that when you're 18 years old, you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to make all these mistakes. Yeah.
That's like Useful Things.
Useful Things.
Bit.
Thomas wrote a book.
Yeah, it's called Useful Things, and it can be found on Amazon and on iTunes for free.
Yeah, there's I was touching on this thing. Pause. I wasn't touching on a thing. I was mentioning about this. What were we talking about?
Oh shit!
Right before that.
You're talking about you and I, or all the three of us?
No, just up until now. God damn it!
Well, let me ask one thing that I'm curious about.
I found it. Sorry.
All right, go
you
ahead.
hold yours.
Yeah. So, look, living the dream. That's our tagline. Okay, and that to me was what Mad Dog was doing, man. He was living the dream, man.
Yeah.
And
he actually says that in the movie.
He does. Living the dream. Yeah. And that to me, and I gravitated a lot to his character, man. I mean, I felt for him. I really like that his tenacity and his inability to just say, fuck it, I give up, man. I'm gonna go work with my dad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take Dad's job. He didn't want to give up, man, and that just really struck a chord for me, because, I mean, when do you say, shit, you know what? I'm just gonna conform. I'm just gonna.
I know guys that are 50 years old still playing in rock bands, and they're happy because when they're out doing. My friend's dad, he's like 60, and he plays a steel pedal guitar, and he's like awesome at it, and he still goes around Boston and plays gigs and whatever, and he loves it because it's like, hey man, if this makes me happy, then I'm gonna keep doing it, and like I know I'll probably never get signed to some huge deal, but
still living the dream.
Yeah, man, you live the dream, anyways.
You have to have a passion in life. You definitely have to have passion for what you do,
And if you're making ends meet, man, I mean.
Which leads me to the Ultimate Warrior.
The Ultimate Warrior.
Have you seen his blogs?
I have not.
Yeah, if you want to get fired up, you watch the Ultimate Warrior's blogs on YouTube.
Is he still around?
Yeah, Injections of Inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
They're called Injections of Inspiration on YouTube.
Oh, I'll totally check that out. I was a big Ultimate Warrior fan when I was a kid.
Dude.
Yeah. Do you still watch professional wrestling?
Yeah, all the time.
Seriously?
I watch it every week because it's sort of like just sort of like a release for me as like from when I was a kid. It's
yeah.
It's like it's not nearly as good as it was. You're always hoping. You're living the dream. You're hoping that'll be as good as when you were a kid.
Hacksaw, Junkyard Dog,
Dude,
Jimmy Fly Snuka,
Macho
Man, Ultimate Warrior. He rejuvenated the WWF when he came into it.
He was like steroids for baseball.
Yeah, everybody was like, the Warrior came in and everybody's like, so adamant that he's such like this big juice head and whatever. And I've talked to him a bunch on the phone, and he said, I'm not. He goes, I'm not saying I didn't take anything. He's like, of course I took stuff, but the amount of stuff I took was no more than anybody else. He's like, you had guys that were in the league that weren't even in shape, who were on tons of stuff.
Yeah.
And what he said was, it was the diet. It was the diet that really helped him, because he's like, listen, I'm a simple guy. I like to lift weights and
And go crazy.
Yeah, go crazy, sort of. Like, that's it. He goes, so I was eating tuna out of a can on the road for like, it'd be 6-7 days at a time. Because he goes, we weren't getting paid as much as you thought we were. And in the very beginning, like we weren't getting paid hardly anything. So like, for me, it was like, if I'm gonna, have my home base and be paying for that and buying a house and this and that, like I got to eat tuna fish to do that. And he's like, it's survival mode. You just go survival mode. So he was like in like deep ketosis all the time. He probably had ketosis breath.
Yeah, I bet he smelled like shit, but you could see like 15 abs when everyone else had like 6.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It's awesome, man.
Do you, I hate to backtrack, but briefly with strength, how important is it to you now to hit PRs in the gym?
Well, right now I have an injury, so it's like kind of just trying to get back to normal.
Okay.
But also, yeah, I haven't been too big into powerlifting lately. I had double hip replacement surgery. I can still squat 500 easy. I can still deadlift 500 easy.
That's ridiculous.
And people are like, "That's crazy. Why do you do that?" Well, I'm living the dream. Like that's still something that's like within me. It's like I don't care if I used to do squat 700 and deadlift 600. Like I don't really care that I used to do that. It's like what can you do now? And if you don't keep pushing yourself, you just sort of waste away and die.
So do you structure your training around rep PRs now and
Not really. I'm not like very structured in any of it. Like I sort of use like the West Side method, which is basically you train 4 days, 2 days upper body, 2 days lower body, and I like that. I haven't been
no direct calf work? What?
No calf work at all. My calves are bigger than anybody in the gym.
It's so true.
I get compliments from Flex Wheeler about my calves, and I said that's from walking around being fat all my life.
It's true. Everybody with the good genetics
Well, it's
and your
interesting because
calves,
you guys,
lucky y'all.
we talk about all this stuff, and like for me, the hardest part is like not necessarily figuring out the diet to do. I know the diet to do. It's actually hard to do it. You know? So like
yeah.
Yeah, it's
when
discipline,
people are,
man.
Yeah.
when people are doing it, or you're already there, you're obviously more thermogenic and metabolic, and you're burning more calories. So for me to get my weight back down, it'll take like just a real strict honing in for a while, and not cheating on the diet. And I feel like that's almost
the hardest
impossible.
thing. Really?
It's not like the temptation to eat. It's like just getting caught in the wrong place at the wrong time a lot, and getting like bad news, and you're like, screw it, I'm gonna have pizza, But I don't normally think that. Like
Right.
I'm like, out the door with gluten and all that stuff, and then like you see the menu and everything that looks good is on bread, because you just feel like that looks good today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, well, usually I'll eat it without the bread. Like I go everywhere and order stuff without the bread, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And but then just sometimes I break down.
Sometimes your body auto-regulates and
Well, I know you
you're
have, like, a cheat
I need
meal
to
and
have
all
two
that.
pizzas because they're delicious.
Yeah.
2 pizzas.
Or a little bit of booze and
Not
you're
too-
done.
Yeah,
two
forget
slices.
about
I
it.
think the worst things in the world come from booze, because like when you drink, you want to do everything. You want to like.
We had Chris Gibson on, an
Oh,
actor,
man.
and he talked about that very thing. Not a lot of good comes from boozing.
It
But
doesn't,
Damn,
but
it's
it's.
so much fun.
I know. I wish there was like an alternative, like
GHB, man.
yeah,
Shit, that's
knock
true.
you on the ground.
Yeah,
Do you? And I meant to ask you this. Real, I know you're running out of. I know we're running. How are we doing on time?
We're doing all right.
Okay.
But not too
spiritually-
long, because we got to watch the Ultimate Warrior blogs.
Yeah,
before we-
that's right. Spiritually, we pretty much ask everybody that comes on. Do you do any kind of meditation?
No.
Is weightlifting your meditation? Like you go in there and do your focus and. Like,
See, this is what
No, man. The gym to me has become important to what I do. The gym to me, like, people are like, where'd you find that guy? I'm like, at the gym. Where'd you find that guy at the gym? So
it's like the
a lot
golf
of-
course for some people.
A lot of the projects I'm doing just revolve around like, just social, being like more social at the gym. And I have a training partner that sort of like shuns that. My buddy Rico, he'll like shun. He'll be like, hey, we got to do another set.
Yeah, that's me. I got my
He-
headphones
but
on.
he-
I'm like,
Yeah, he knows some good ways of getting people out of your way, but everybody wants to stop and talk to you for 20 minutes. I'm
Yeah.
like, I just talked to you. There's so many people that aren't business that like, that come up and just tell you their life story.
right.
I mean, people come up and tell me the most random things. Like,
Because you're the bigger, stronger, faster guy.
yeah, but it's not good all the time.
Right.
But I don't mind it. But like when it's the same people, at the same time, when it's like my buddies who are like stopping me to tell me he's on a celebrity softball team, but he's not a celebrity. But he
Right.
got his way in. And he's telling me for like 20 minutes, and there's a playmate on the team, and how awesome it's gonna be. And I'm like, dude, I gotta lift. I gotta
Yo,
train.
I gotta go.
And he'll probably watch this and be like, hey.
Yeah,
Why would you say that about me? What were
the
you
other guy.
gonna say about spirituality?
No, I was gonna say that we kind of touched on it a little bit with Gib, our last guest, about meditation, and I obviously I know what meditation is, but I asked Thomas, is like, what do you mean? Like, because this is a meditation, you know?
Right.
Weightlifting's a meditation. When I'm on the range, man, and I'm hitting buckets of balls, everything turns off. Time stops, and that's a meditation. So I think what you were referring to is like a focus, like just stilling of your body.
Yeah, just making your mind, because we're so overstimulated by magnetic waves and email and the phone and the way that we consume information now is, I think it's got to be deleterious long term. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it's
the closer we're connected, the more we're disconnected.
Right, exactly.
The more we're connected, you're dialed into all this stuff to the point where like I don't even care anymore.
Yeah, a buddy of mine was.
I don't care who likes my Facebook comment. I don't care.
Yeah, no. He asked me. He's like, because good friend of mine, known him for 15 years. One of my best friends. His name's Sam. He says he doesn't know what's going on with me, but he's considered my friend. He doesn't have Facebook, but more people that I know on Facebook know more about my life right now than he does. And he's one of my good friends.
And it's really weird because like you'll start getting like messages and different things, and then after a while you sort of like, I'm getting so many messages and spam and crap and whatever that like I just shut down. And I'm like, I don't want to hear from anybody.
Yeah.
So I'm turning my phone off, and just like leave it, away from, because I get, it just gets crazy. It's like everybody wants to talk to you like right now, and like.
Yeah.
I assume that'll only get worse for you as you get into narrative filmmaking and
Yeah, I don't necessarily mind it, but like it's only like it's when like people are sort of not. There's a lot of people, and the more successful you get, I guess the worse this gets. But there's a lot of people that just try to get in touch with you to have them like have you help them in some way, and it's like, oh, you only call me when you need me,
Right,
I get it, and if you say that to somebody, they'll get really mad.
Yeah.
How dare you speak plainly and true about my intentions?
And that's fine, but like at the same time, it's like when no one's ever like. Here's the thing about making it, if you want to call it that, but like nobody is ever gonna give you a chance. You have to take chances.
Yeah.
You take chances.
Great.
I like that.
Great
Because
mantra.
I'm telling you, man, nobody ever called to me and said, I must have called in the past 10 years, probably 2,000 people saying, I got a gig for you. I got something that you're skilled at, and, here you go. Whether it was John Cena or whether it was, somebody that applying for a secretary job somewhere. And I just know a lot of people, and I like to see people prosper. But that also leaves a lot of egg on your face when people aren't reliable. And it also leads to like, there's people that have asked me for stuff and then turned them back, and like they're not my friend anymore because I couldn't help them. Not because I didn't try to help them, because I couldn't help them. Like it didn't go through the thing that they were trying to achieve.
Has that been like a strictly Los Angeles type thing, or was that happening to you before you moved out here?
No, I moved out here, in 94, 95 to go to USC.
So that's been happening since you got to LA, basically.
Yeah, it's sort of been like that. Like, there's never been a time where anybody called me and said, "Hey, I got this great opportunity for you."
So did you study film at USC?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, you guys were making movies, as kids. I mean, the documentary opens.
It was weird. It was like I graduated high school with like a 68% average. I don't know what that GPA is.
That's a Daryl minus, actually.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. And so
D.
the reason I got bad grades wasn't because I was necessarily a bad student. It was like I loved all the extracurricular stuff, like football and like playing sports and lifting weights and doing all this other stuff. And I never did my homework or anything. Like I just didn't apply myself at all.
Yeah.
So I graduated and like at the bottom of my class, 500 kids, I was like 462. And I went to a community college. I started, doing some video communication stuff. That's what I was taking because I thought it would be easy. I'm like, oh, this would be easy. Right. And I'm like, wow. Then I was doing literally, stuff like this. We were doing radio commercials. We were doing radio shows that are just broadcast on a local network. We can get on and talk about anything. I'm like, this is awesome,
Yeah.
And then I got my two friends called me who were dancers for like MTV The Grind at the time.
Whoa, The Grind with Eric Nies.
Yeah, Eric Nies. And they were like, look, we have our group, and we want to make this video. And so I'm like, okay, send me over the song and whatever. I'll see if we can do something. So they sent me the song, and it was so bizarre. It was like, literally one black kid, one white kid with just the craziest looks. One like sort of dresses like a straw hat cowboy, but is just the most amazing dancer you'll ever see. Like he just does crazy breakdance and shit, like crazy, And like we'd walk into like a restaurant and he'd do like some crazy move, and then he'd stand up in the person's face and be like, "Can I have a slice of pizza?" Like, I mean, it's just crazy, right? And then the other kid, Marcus, like had his hair all crazy up, black kid, and he wore a Burt doll because Julie, what's the girl that used downtown Julie Brown?
Yeah, downtown Julie
used
Brown.
to call him Burt Man. So she's like, "You look like Burt from Ernie and Burt." So you got this Burt doll, and he would wear that, and he does all that crazy stuff too. And then like together they do all this like team shit that you've never seen before, right? And so they were like LL Cool J's producers looking at us and blah blah blah. I'll shoot the video. So we shot this video on VHS, and I didn't know what I was doing. I sunk it up like I'd hit play on the boombox. I'd be like, "Okay, ready, go," and they'd get in tune to it. They'd sing along with it. But the video was so strange because like we shot it on a ranch because my one friend was like a cowboy. He's called the Bandit. He's
Straw hat cowboy.
Burt Man and the Bandit. Yeah, and
badass.
I did a video, but it was awesome. Like their music was cool. Like it was definitely like top level stuff. And we did this video, and I won a national contest from the video. So they flew us out to LA, put us up. I get out here and I find out like, well, who's the judges for this? Is that AFI, American Film Institute? Who are the judges for this? And like Kathleen Kennedy, Francis Ford Coppola, Tim Allen, like all these people, Penelope Spheris. Right? I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, and you won. I'm like, holy shit, like.
That's
okay,
amazing.
Cool. And I said to the lady, she's like, I said, what does it take to come to school here? She's like, well, we're a grad school, and if you have a 2-year degree, you'd have to go somewhere else first and then come over here. And I'm like, what's a good film school to go to? And she goes, USC. And I'm like, okay. So we went over to USC to check out the campus. These guys get into it with the cheerleaders. Like, they start dancing with the cheerleaders, and the cheerleaders love them. They're like, what are you doing tonight? Like, going wherever you're going. So we went to a party with all the cheerleaders. And I'm like, I didn't even know what the film school was about there, And I didn't even visit the film school. I got to the cheerleaders point, and then we were like, we got to go home and get ready for the cheerleader party.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm staying here. That's it. I'm definitely, I'm going to come to school here. Well, I went back home for a little while, and I had applied to USC, and everybody was, laughing at me. They're like, in my communications classes, you really, you won a contest, and you think that you're going to apply to USC and you're going to get in. You're never going to get in there. They get 2,000 applicants every year, and they take 40 students. You'll never get in there. So I went in so naive, not knowing that USC was a good film school, because I'm from upstate New York in the sticks. So I don't know. We didn't have internet back then. You didn't have anything. There was no way to find out what the best film school was, and maybe if you went to a library,
right?
But how else would you know that? Right. I mean, that's what's amazing about the internet. It's it's made. I mean, kids these days have it so easy. It's just apply online, take your test online, do everything online, and it just makes your life so much easier. But back in my day, we had a struggle.
Right, you're an old man now, dude.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about it to me
right
is
behind
that
you.
I know.
People will always tell you can't do something, and it's just not true. I mean, it's just not true. Everybody told Obama he'd never be president. They don't have to be a good president. He's just president.
Yeah.
But I mean, he got there. There's so many things that you can look at, and almost everybody's story starts and ends the same way.
Yeah. What are you looking at, dude?
I'm just looking at the time on on our camera, just so that we don't run out. Is it 140, 110?
Yeah, I think we're right there, actually.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up then. Chris, bro. Thank you so much, dude, for coming in. This has been
Thank you guys for
awesome.
having me. I appreciate it.
I'm such a fanboy. I was so excited for this, and I've just been thrilled the whole time. Do you want to plug anything before we peace out?
Well, I just want to say, people look out for Trophy Kids.
Trophy Kids.
Check out my brother's websites for some good information. That's supertraining.tv. And there's over 1,000 videos on there for free. But
where can they get Trophy Kids info?
Well, what I think we should do is maybe round up again when the movie comes out.
Okay,
That'd be great,
yeah,
man.
That'd be
I'll
awesome.
invite you guys to whatever premiere there is or whatever's going on, and
We'll plug it again.
Yeah, we'll plug it again when we know when it's coming out. It's sort of there's like a deal on the table right now, but I'm not supposed to talk about it and like
Fair enough.
it's all that stuff. So it's like it sounds like it might be a pretty good release though. So
Congratulations,
Yeah,
man.
congrats and thanks for coming. This has been
Seriously.
super awesome. One of my favorite episodes so far.
Yeah, look at this guy smiling.
I know, like a kid at Christmas.
He's one of your
Um,
biggest fans, man.
Thanks
Thank you,
again,
Chris.
and we'll see you when Trophy Kids comes out.
great, thanks guys.
Thanks, dude.
Live the dream, fellas.
Live the
Legit.
dream.